hopefully. So I just thought I'd start from the sort of UK level. Record centres, there's about 60 odd across the UK, and in fact they cover just about all the parts of the UK. You can see that they're sort of organised into often county-wide record centres. It's certainly in England they are, but in North Wales we cover the counties right the way from Gwynedd across to across to Wrexham. And although we have local environmental record centres in our title, we very much concentrate on sort of species and habitats. So environmental's mainly there to sort of allow us to be able to subsume other data into the centre. And we do hold things like geological information at the moment, but crucially we're the main repository for things like wildlife data and particularly species information. So in Wales, there's 4 local record centres. They were all established at a reasonably similar time, and we were the first UK network to cover an entire nation. And I think that's a lot of testament to both the support that we had from, at the time, Countryside Council of Wales, but continuing support from the Welsh Government to be able to ensure that we've got this really good network of record centres covering the whole of Wales. We have our own sort of web portal where you can access data. This is unique. England don't have it, Scotland don't have it. In Wales, we call it a Derin. It allows members of the public to go on and request information about their area. It allows them also to do species distribution maps, so you can see if you're looking at a particular species, where it is in Wales. And it also is a functioning system for us for some of our partners and commercial customers as well. So it's sort of expanded away from just being a public-facing website to something that actually helps us deliver our tools to some of our customers. In terms of Cofnod, well, I thought I was going to do this whole talk just by showing a series of websites actually, but I've turned it into a presentation. It's mainly because I think at this time it sort of shows how resilient we've been. Most of our tools are online, and most of the way that people access us is either through our website or through various other online tools. You'll see that, like most websites, we've got that standard bit of text at the top talking about COVID-19 restrictions and the fact that we've managed to operate continually since the sort of lockdown started. We all started working from home for the 24th of March, and we've managed to continue to run the service throughout this really difficult time. And I think some of that is to do with the fact that we've got really good systems behind us, and we've also got methods of being able to communicate with people, both through things like, you know, the video conferencing and email, whole range of things that we've managed to maintain throughout this period. So I'd advise you to have a look at our website. It's always a good source of information. It's got information about different courses that are on in the area, and it's also just a really good link to anything to do with wildlife recording. So during this period, we've continued to do things like our mail shot. We send out to about over 850 people, our monthly mail shot, which just gives people an update on what we're up to. Got quite a good online presence for social media, and mainly through Twitter, and you know, we're sharing things through that. And during this period as well, we started our first set of Zoom online courses. We've run a whole series of them, and most of these are now available through our YouTube channel. So they're all based on just trying to keep people learning about species. So you'll see we've taken people through things on mosses and liverworts, right the way through to birdsong, which was just delivered last Thursday. And just as a bit of a plug, in a couple of weeks' time, we've got an online course for garden pond life. These are all free to book onto. We had over 120 people on the birdsong course last week. So it's quite a popular way of just introducing people to these various aspects of biological recording. Another bit of a plug as well for people that are wildlife recorders. We do offer a grant if you're based in North Wales and you're doing recording. We can pay up to £500 for things like travel expenses or attending courses. field work, field equipment, all sorts of things. And this has proved really successful. We end up giving about £5,000 a year towards people just to allow them to make better records and hopefully share those with us. Now, in terms of the data, we'd be nowhere without a whole series of people sitting behind us. So we've got all these hundreds of wildlife recorders that are really active in North Wales. They're out when they can. It's been difficult over the summer, but we've still been getting a lot of records coming in. People have been submitting their records in hundreds and thousands during this period. And in fact, we're really pleased that just at the end of July, we just hit the 4 million record mark. So we've, as you can see from the graph, we've been gradually increasing, but over the last couple of years, we've really started to increase the number. It's sort of almost a million in a year. And you can see that the composition's changing as well. So we've got now in 2020, quite a lot more bird data than we ever had, fewer amounts of plant data because that's being outstripped by the other data that's coming in, quite a lot of invertebrate information. So it's changing all the time, but we're gradually here, bringing in all of this important information into the centre. I should have said earlier, we focus mainly just on species on the terrestrial form. We do have some marine data, but it constitutes a really small part of what we do. It's mainly just land-based species that we deal with. In terms of how fresh the data is, well, I think this graph sort of illustrates really that most of our data is from the last 10 to 15 years. There's quite a large chunk of it that's relatively new. We're bringing this sort of information in from all the sort of surveys that are going on continually. Not a lot for 2020 plus, obviously, at the moment, because we're just into that. But we've got quite a fresh database. But we do have data that dates back way into the sort of 19th century. So, we're interested in all data through all of those time periods. In terms of where our data comes from, there's a whole range, but interestingly, we're getting a lot more data that's coming through these big national schemes and societies. So things like the British Trust for Ornithology or RSPB, we're getting data that are coming through from them. So it constitutes about 40% of our database. But about 70% of our data actually comes from volunteer recorders because it comes through from this green segment and also this grey segment here as well. So one of the dearths in information comes from consultant ecologists. It's a real shame, actually. We still only hold about 35,000 records that come from consultancy. And yet we know that this is activity that's going on all the time. It's certainly information that is requested from us all the time as well. So people are requesting information, but not necessarily passing their survey information back to us. It's still a very, very small part of our database. Another big area that we're really concerned about is we actually don't get very much data from academic or research institutions. So about 0.3% of our database, just 12,000 records, is coming through from that area, which is really, really poor. So we want to do more to build the capacity there to be able to share that sort of data with us. Okay, so we're up to the first part of my presentation, and we just thought we'd just pop a little poll in here. I'm really interested to see who's sharing their data and how they're doing it. So we've got 5 questions here. I know it's not going to probably fit you all, but basically if you're not sharing your data, answer 1, and then I'd just be intrigued to know if you are sharing your data, who you might be sharing it with. So Lisa, I think...
Yeah, just to let the attendees know, you might need to exit full screen mode in order to complete the poll. I can see it's working, and we've got 41% of people who have voted already. So I'll just leave that up there a little bit for people to contribute to the poll. If you do have any difficulty filling in the poll, just drop us a message in the questions box as well. So just give it
okay, Lisa.
2 more seconds.
I'll let you give me the cue to when I'll carry on, but that's great if people can just fill that in.
I'll just close it now and then I'll share the results with you. There you go. So you should be able to see the results there.
I can't find where that is.
So 42% of respondents said they send their wildlife sightings nowhere, 11% to Cofnod, 11% to local expert recorder, 16% to national scheme or society, and 21% use a recording app. So the majority of people said nowhere.
Well, it's really unfortunate, isn't it? And it's actually the case that sometimes this is what happens. I mean, people are really good at observing wildlife, and it's been no better time to observe wildlife in some respects than the last few months, because things have generally been quite quiet. Although we've not been able to go out to long distances, not our favourite places to record wildlife. There's definitely been more wildlife to observe, and things like our road verges have been uncut for many months now, and you'll see really important species just starting to arrive. I'd say that please share your wildlife records with us. There's loads of really easy ways of doing that, and it's so important that you do, because you're building up a really important evidence base that gets used by everyone from Welsh Government down to volunteers and everyone. So please, if you can, share your wildlife information with us. One of those choices was recording apps, and they've become more and more prevalent. We've actually got our own one which we've designed along with the Biological Record Centre, and this is it's a bilingual resource that will allow you to just add that to your smartphone. It's got simple online tools allowing you to do mapping. It picks from a species dictionary. It allows you to upload photos, and as soon as your record goes off, it gets into a database. And this is a really useful way of being able to do that. So you can probably find that app either on the Google Store or on iTunes, or you can just go to any of our websites and you can find it, any of the 4 websites from the Welsh Local Record Centres. So one of the things that we've been doing for a long time is gathering data through our website, and I would say that we were probably one of the first websites or local environmental record centres to have a website where you could put data in. It's looking a bit dated at the moment, and because we've been operating it for about 8 years, and it is due for a total refresh later on this year, so it's going to make it look and function a lot better. But it's still really functional and works really easy. You basically just register on our website. You can then use all the tools that are available on there. It's got a searchable species dictionary. It's got stuff like online maps, which is a really important part of a biological record, is to tell us where you've seen something as well as what you've seen. We need to know who you are, and then you can add other additional evidence like photographs as well. Really important. So this helps us not only verify the data, but also gives us really useful information sometimes about how that species is reacting. So please use the website. As I say, you register. All of this stuff I'm talking to you about is free. You can register, and you can, when you're on the go, you can put your record in through the app, or if you come back home, you can put stuff through the website. Just to give an example, I mean, we started a project with a group of recorders that were recording great crested newts over in northeast Wales. We started with a database of effectively 0. A few hundred records have been shared with us, and not in very good quality necessarily, always difficult to find out whether the locations were correct. And we started a project with them, and soon, within about 2 years, we've now got 30,000 records of great crested newt spread over about 1,400 locations. They're very accurate, right down to the individual ponds where these are found. So this is really the power of having those online technologies, being able to communicate with the people out there doing their recording. They come back after a night of recording, bang the data straight in, and it goes straight into the database. So who uses our data? Well, we've always had some really great support from the local authorities. We've got Conway, Flintshire, Denbighshire, Gwynedd, and Snowdonia National Park on board, accessing data, Natural Resources Wales and Welsh Government as well as the Trunk Road agents as well. They're really great supporters of ours. They use their data regularly for all their sort of environmental assessment stuff. And we've always been doing work with the private sector, so we've got contracts with Welsh Water, Network Rail. We've got local consultants like Gwynedd Consultancy, accessing data, the big consultancies like Mott MacDonald, all accessing data from us directly. And we also provide lots of, like free services to the likes of, the North Wales Wildlife Trust. We get lots of requests from Bangor University students asking us for information for their studies, and we provide all that sort of information to them for free. Now, to make a request, the best way to do it is through our website, and you'll see that there are 4 different types of requests you can make. There's a commercial data request, which is chargeable. There's an academic one, which is free, and partnership ones tend to be just with our bigger sort of paying customers, the likes of the local authorities or Welsh Government. They can make requests to us from that. And then we also do public requests for data as well. And just to give you an indication of the sort of requests that we deal with, last year we dealt with nearly 800 data requests, and about 320 or so of those were chargeable. So they're, it's part of the income stream that helps support the local environmental records centre. Just thought I'd have a look over time what we've been doing. So remember, we're not actually screening planning applications currently for Anglesey or Wrexham, but in the period of time we've been established, we've screened nearly over 60,000 planning applications. We've dealt with over 3,000 requests from environmental consultants. So there's a huge chunk of data going into the planning system, and that is really important, because when people are making decisions on whether a planning application should be passed, it's really important that they consider particularly those important national and international priority species. So there's several ways you can access the data. Well, I've already mentioned Aderin, so you just type in Aderin into Google and you'll get this website, which is a free to access website. We're actually making a lot more data available through that method as well, through the partnerships we have, and in South Wales they're using it actually for their commercial services as well. If you come to Cofnod, you can get a range of different data. You can get GIS data delivered to you, you can get standard reports and spreadsheets, but we're increasingly, and we've been doing this for about 4 years now, we use this system called EMapper, which I'll just give you a quick taster of. Basically, it's an online GIS that we've developed ourselves. You get sent a link. In that link, it opens up a map, and it has a legend in the same way that you would have any sort of other sort of GIS. It's just functioning online. It's not functioning on your computer, it's functioning online. It gives you access to the tabular information if you need it. It gives you detailed views, so you can zoom in and out of the map. You can see those species, you can click on any of the species and information pops up about them. It allows you to use a variety of different maps. It allows you to overlay sites on top of species, and there's a whole range of information that's available through this method. So it's our sort of go-to method for distributing the data. Normally a link comes on an email, you open it up, and straight away it opens up in your web browser. So I just thought I'd have another question here. Maybe you've never accessed any data from us previously, but if you were to access data from us, okay, why would you do that? Would it be for personal interest? Are you an academic or researcher? are you doing it for that important environmental assessment work, or is it just for conservation management? Is it something like that? So 4 questions in this poll. If you could answer that, that'd be brilliant.
Live now, I can see people are voting. Again, if you can't click to vote in the poll, you might just need to exit full screen mode. I think we're getting a lot more people here submitting their votes. So just give that 5 more seconds. Brilliant. So I'll close that now and share the responses with you. So we can see here that the majority of people do access data for environmental assessment, so that's 50%. 33% said personal interest, 13% said academic research, and then 4% said conservation management.
Okay, lovely, thank you. That's really interesting. You know, quite a lot of you have said environmental assessment there, and it's great to know that that's being used in that sort of way. I would say that we've pioneered this system to be really quick at responding to requests, particularly the ones that are chargeable. I mean, we generally turn those sort of things around within an hour, so you can make a request, you can get your data back in that EMapper format within the hour. And that's quite unusual. A lot of record centres, unfortunately, in parts of England particularly, they sometimes quote you 10 days to get access to their data. So I'm quite proud of that. So just to summarise, really, we need you to do some things for us, please, because it's always important. Please engage with us. You know, you go to our website, you can go on free courses, or there's paid for courses as well. There's things we don't charge a lot, normally a £5 or £10 booking fee normally to attend them, but there's some really important stuff that we'll do once the restrictions have started to be lifted in the field again. But for now, we're doing those sort of things. We'll send out newsletters and various other communications. So, you know, if you want to get engaged with us, that's a really useful way. Just register on the website. Please send us your data. We accept data in all sorts of formats. You know, people send us huge spreadsheets or databases. Equally, they'll just put in the odd ad hoc record through the app or in through the website, and we don't care. We just really want you to put your data in. It's so important, because without that data, we can't share that with some of the customers that need to use it, and particularly those that need to use it for environmental assessment. So yeah, please use the data if you get an opportunity. You know, there's lots of free for services. If you've got people here, particularly from the academic sector, you can request data from us for free. Whereas if you're coming from a commercials point of view, we think we're reasonably priced and we can send you information really quickly. So that's what we're trying to make wildlife data count, really. You know, it's important that we sometimes lift the level of wildlife data above some of that other important information that goes into the process of making decisions. And, you know, some of this stuff is very precious. In North Wales, we're very fortunate that we live in a very green and beautiful area. But, you know, there are lots of species and habitats that are just clinging on the edge. So we hope that by having that data in our database and making sure that people get access to it, that we're making that data count and hopefully helping to conserve that wildlife going forward.